Hello everyone out there, it's Smash Move here! And finally, I am back. New D-Files episode. It's been a little bit. I've been really busy with school. School can be a bitch. But now I am back with the new killer that I've been focusing on, the Doctor. So, let's get into his lore. Showing exceptional aptitude in psychology, Herman was handpicked for special training in an advanced neuroscience program located in the secret black site facility in Illinois known as the Leary Memorial Institute. Really a front for the CIA. This is where Herman met Dr. Otto Stamper, where, under his guidance, Herman began to use strange and ever increasingly vicious methods to extract information from prisoners sent to the Institute, which was also a covert prison and re-education center for whoever was the USA's current nemesis. His liberal use of violent electroshock therapy revealed dramatic results, and several threats to national security were uncovered. Over the year, Herman became known as the Doctor, and no one ever questioned if he had even held a medical certificate or even what happened to the prisoners after they had given up their information. It was only after the Leary Memorial Institute went silent for a week that the true horror was finally discovered. The personal patients and prisoners were all found dead with all types of head trauma. All personnel's and prisoners' bodies were accounted for, including Dr. Otto Stamper, but no sign of Herman the Doctor Carter. Yeah, so this guy went crazy in the efforts of information extraction, I guess. And this is a whole reference back to if you know what MK Ultra is, where it was in Montauk, New York, where the government tried to find the secrets to mind control, mainly against political prisoners that they found from the Cold War. So yeah, this guy is pretty crazy. Getting into his perks. Now he has a mixed bag of perks. His worst one is overwhelming presence. Your presence alone instills great fear. Survivors within your terror radius suffer from inefficiency. Affected survivors' item consumption rates are increased by 80, 90, and 100%. So, yeah, once they find out that you are using this perk, they're never going to use their item again. They're never going to use their item as long as they're within your terror radius, which sucks. It just sucks. It's such a useless perk. It's like it's a D tier perk. His next perk is his best one, which is actually very valuable on a lot of killers. Monitor and abuse. Malicious in your approach, terrifying in your application. While in a chase, your terror radius is increased by 8 meters. Otherwise, your terror radius is decreased by 8 meters, and your field of view is increased by 3, 5, and 7%, or 7 degrees. Yeah, so whew, having your terror radius decrease for most of the game by 8 meters is ridiculous. This is especially good on killers that need to sneak up and get the jump on survivors better. This works well on the Deathslinger, on the Oni, on Michael Myers, on the Huntress. This works so well on so many killers. Like, it's so valuable. However, it sucks. Ironically, it sucks for the Doctor, and I'll get to why. I would rate this an A tier perk. And his next perk is Overcharge. You are fueled by your hate for progress. Overcharge a generator by performing the damage generator action. The next survivor interacts with that generator is faced with a tremendously difficult skill check. Failing the skill check results an additional 3%, 3, 4, 5% for that generator. Succeeding the skill check grants no progress but prevents the generator explosion. This perk works really well in the beginning. Once you're a beginner and survivors have a hard time hitting regular skill checks, yeah, this is gonna screw them over a lot. However, as you rise up the ranks, survivors are gonna hit skill checks easier as they just simply get better, which is the sad reality of it, but But there's always that occasional time when they're not expecting you to run overcharge. So there's that. This perk runs really well with gen control builds. Specifically, it runs well with like Pop Goes the Weasel. You know, it's just, you know, it's a mixed bag. Again, I would rate this a B to a B minus. His power is called Carter's Spark. Carter's Spark. Successfully striking survivors with the Doctor's special ability, Shock Therapy or Shock Blast. They increase the survivor's madness, a debuff specific to the Doctor, and eventually inflicting them with the madness status effect and triggering increasingly potent effects. So, I'm going to go ahead and explain to you how this works. The Shock Therapy. You press and hold the power button to perform Shock Therapy, unleashing a ranged wave of electricity in the ground in front of you. Survivors that are struck by the Shock Therapy gain increased madness, and any interactions they're performing immediately are interrupted. Shock Therapy immediately negates the Oblivious status effect. So yeah, you can't really use perks that give them the Oblivious status effect because it just negates it. So, if you hold down the power button, you'll shoot a wave of energy in front of you and it increases their madness level. The Static Blast. Press and hold the active ability button to perform a static blast, causing all survivors within your terror radius to scream and gain increased madness. Static Blast can only be activated when not on cooldown. It has a 60-second cooldown, but it inflicts a huge area of the map. Static Blast immediately negates the Oblivious status effect, as does Shock Therapy. See, now this is what the madness levels do. There are 4 madness levels. No madness, madness 1, madness 2, and madness 3. No madness, nothing happens. If you're in madness 1, it causes the survivor to scream once, revealing their position to the Doctor, and slightly affects skill check placement and direction. So, whenever you're running, the Doctor, when they're at madness level 1, their skill checks will be randomly placed around the screen, which at higher level does pretty much nothing to experienced players, but really freaks out new players. When they're in Madness 2, it causes the survivors to scream once and experience hallucinations in the form of an illusionary doctor, and moderately affects skill checks, placements, and direction. Yeah, so illusionary doctors are fake doctors that allows you to see their location. Madness 3 causes survivors to scream intermediately, revealing their location. So every once in a while they'll scream, and experience hallucinations in form of an illusionary doctor. It tremendously affects skill check placement and direction. The survivor may not perform any healing, repairing, sabotaging, unlocking, or cleansing interactions until they successfully snap out of it, which is a unique thing survivors got to go through, where it's just one skill check after the other, and they got to keep hitting it until ultimately they break out of it and go back to Madness 1. Yep, whenever they snap out of it, they return to Madness 1. So, yeah. However, that is not all. By the way, he has a standard 4.6 meter speed, he has a 32 meter terror radius, and he's pretty tall. Now, this is the whole reason why I said Monitor and Abuse does not go good on him, is because of the Static Blast. You're going to want people in your terror radius as much as possible, and decreasing it is not good. Getting into his add-ons. Oh, Lord. I have had the most difficult time figuring out how to place these add-ons. Now, personally, the best add-on, arguably one of the best add-ons in the game, and his singular S-tier add-on is the Iridescent King, a glass-like king piece molded from the fog itself. The entity's trace reverberating within it can break most powerful minds. Survivor, this is why I had such a hard time, is because each of these has like that long list. Survivors afflicted from the madness status effect suffer from the following afflictions of calm, discipline, order, and restraint. Intermediately causes survivors to hear a distant illusionary terror radius, so a fake terror radius, a fake red stain whenever the doctor's in a chase, so they can't see which way the doctor's facing when they're in a chase. Broken pallets may be fake pallets, so literally pallets can just straight up be replaced with fake ones that don't even exist. And increases the illusionary doctor duration. And the doctor can see the illusionary red stains and illusionary doctors and pallets. The Iridescent King is so powerful because it gives every affliction that the doctor can possibly give, but in one single add-on, which is stupid powerful. Ridiculously powerful. He has 2 A-tier add-ons, in my opinion. The next one, which would be the Iridescent Queen. A glass-like queen chess piece molded from the fog itself. It can't be touched without receiving a considerable jolt of electricity. It has a very unique function. All survivors struck by the shock therapy or static blast special abilities acquire a lingering static charge. The static charge remains with the survivors until just discharged. Multiple survivors struck by the same static therapy or static blast that are within 4 meters of each other do not acquire a static charge. Anytime a survivor is standing within 4 meters of another survivor carrying a static charge, the survivor receives a shock with identical effects to shock therapy. So, yeah, if you shock someone and they run into someone else, you both are shocked for additional madness. This pretty much really, and they scream and everything, so it reveals their location. So it pretty much prevents people from interacting with each other, which is really good. Especially if you shock someone and put them on a hook, then the next person who rescues them instantly gets shocked. Getting in, and he has another A-tier add-on, in my opinion, which would personally be discipline. This, and all of these in addition to giving a madness effect, they also do something else. Like in this one, the reason why this is also A-tier is it considerably decreases the detonation delay of shock therapy, allowing you to shock people much faster. It also afflicts people with the madness stat, of course, madness, and also perceives the red stain and terror radius with the same effect as the Iridescent King. So, yeah. Following up in B tier, I would put restraint and Carter's Notes, which reveal whenever their madness level increases, it shows their aura for 3 seconds, which is good for good map awareness, and does the illusionary doctor effect. Following up in B tier would probably be the green discipline and the yellow discipline. Class 2, Class 3, and Order. Or not Order. Yeah. Following up in C tier, he has a good amount of C tiers. Would be Order. Order is considerably decreases the cooldown of the static blast by 6 seconds. So that brings it down by 10%, which is good. And does illusionary pallets. Which, of all the effects, illusionary pallets is probably, the least effective out of all of them, but it's still something. Followed up by the green restraint, which is just a worse version of the restraint from Carter's Notes. And Calm. Calm, which increases your terror radius while the static blast is ready, I believe by 8 meters. But decreases your terror radius while static blast is on cooldown. This is actually pretty decent. It also causes a illusionary terror radius to occur instead of the red stain. But the red stain is better than the terror radius. So, yeah. So it increases your terror radius when it's needed, most importantly. But it decreases your terror radius when you're out of a chase. It's essentially it's essentially just like a add-on version of Monitor and Abuse. Also in C tier, he's a lot of C tiers, would be the, oh my god, the High Stimulus Electrode, which considerably increases the shock therapy range by like double. This is most commonly run on Sniper Doc, where if you were trying to shock people from a long distance away, you would want to run Sniper Doc. And also, in the last in C tier would be the Polished Electrode, which is just a worse version of shock therapy, or of the High Stimulus Electrode. Following up in D tier would be the Moldy Electrode, which is just the worst version of the Polished and the High Stimulus. Also in D tier would be the Interview Tape, which is more gimmicky than anything, where it changes it instead of a straight beam forward, instead it's a cone with a 24-meter range, so instead it branches out into like a triangle shape. It's more of a gimmick than anything, which kind of is depressing. The worse version of the Calm, which would be Class 2, would also be in here. The worst version of, what is it? Not Order. Which one is it? The worst version of Restraint would be in here. The worst version of Order would also be part of D tier. Yeah. Getting into E tier add-ons, a lot of his add-ons are kind of evenly dispersed, really. Getting into E tier would also be the Order Class 1 and the Calm Class 1, along with the Maple Knight, which the Maple Knight reveals the area that your shock therapy affects. Now, this is good for beginners, but like after your first 2-3 games, you're gonna know already how it works. And then his one F tier add-on is the Scrapped Tape. It your shock therapy changes from a cone or a beam to a ring appearing 8 meters in front of the doctor. This sucks because it decreases the total range instead of it just being in front of you where you want to aim it. Instead, it involves no aiming, and you just got to get right up next to someone and keep shocking them while you're exactly on them. This sucks because the whole point of the doctor is to have a ranged shock attack. And what is most important about this is that he's good for beginners, but he's good for beginners just because he can affect the game in so many ways. But his weakest part is when he's in a chase. However, at higher ranks, this is where his shock therapy comes in most important, not just for inflicting madness. Whenever you shock someone, they scream, and they cannot do anything for a split second. They cannot do anything. This is where it's important to, when you're in a loop, shock someone at just the right time, and they won't be able to drop a pallet, they won't be able to vault a window, and that's where you're supposed to try and get an attack in. So he has actually a pretty decent skill cap to him. Getting into an ideal perk build, this would be it right here. Barbecue and chili, of course. Like most things, barbecue and chili is really good. This man eats pallets hard. This is why I like to run Enduring on him, which decreases the stun by 50%. If you don't want to run that, I will run Spirit Fury, which could be useful to you. You also, A perk that actually is, this is the, distressing is not a good perk on any other killer except for this guy, which increases your terror radius by 26%. This increases your terror radius from 32 to 40. This is really important for the Doctor, being able to increase his terror radius and afflict a lot more of the map, specifically with the Static Blast. This is very important for him. And I just like to run Pop Goes the Weasel for, you know, for that good slowdown, but you could also run any other perk which is afflicted by, you know, terror radius, such as yeah, Chlorophobia, which decreases the rate at which a survivor heals while inside a terror radius. You could run Overcharge for gen control. It's all up to you with the last one, but I like to run Pop Goes the Weasel. And that covers everything. Thank you all for listening. I'm glad to finally be back. So I hope to do. I'm trying to finish up all of the beginning killers of the game, and I've covered so far the Trapper, the Wraith, the Hillbilly, and the Doctor. I've still got to cover the Nurse, the Hag, and the Huntress. So if you have any questions for me, leave them in the comments. I actually started doing a podcast with my friend Lane, who, it's just an ordinary podcast with me and him and two of our friends. We just talk about, you know, life stories and everything. But whenever we get that out, I'm gonna start putting his channel link in the description to go ahead and try and promote that if you guys want to check him out. So thank you all for watching. I hope you learned something, and I hope you have a thick and fog day, everyone. Bye, guys.